All right, welcome everyone. Hello, hello, hello. This is Kim. I'm Kim, person from Kimberbell. Good afternoon, wherever you are joining us from. It's noon here in Utah at Kimberbell headquarters, and so it's like a lunch hour. Let's just call it like a lunch hour sew along, shall we? If you are here, you are probably interested in the sew along for new hello. Home is where the hunt is. Let's take a look at that. Ooh, how cute is this? Yes, this is, it ends up being about 21 and a half by 21 and a half inches. This is a design that, if you heard a little bit about it last week on What's New Wednesday, I talked about this design and how it was the quilt that started it all. And that was for a sewing version of a wall hanging. And so this year we decided to shrink it down a little bit and make it available for those who machine embroider. And so this is something that is not too late to get. You can actually go to kimberbell.com right now if you want and download the design instantly and be able to participate in a sew along like this. Or if you just want to sit back and watch and enjoy the show for a little bit, then certainly that is something you can do too. Now today I'm going to be going through some of the applique blocks, and we're going to do this today, Monday. We're going to meet again on Wednesday, and then we'll meet again finally on Friday to finish it all up. Can you believe we're going to have a week? It's crazy. So today we're actually going to start with some appliques, the pumpkin row, the witch hat, and the haunted house. We will not go through every single step of this. I think that you would be bored to tears watching me go through every single step. What I'd rather do is actually get you started and give you some hints and tips and tricks of putting these blocks together, and then give you a little homework assignment for tonight to have those blocks done by Wednesday so that we can then go into some of those piecing blocks. All right. Again, it's not too late to download this. In fact, I want to show you here on my computer. Let's take a look at how you're going to find this. So if you go to kimberbell.com, just like so, and then you head over here to the top, it says products. I want you to click on products and then scroll over to where you see the vault. All right, so I'm going to head on over to the vault. And there you will find two different designs that look like what we're talking about today. The first one is actually the sewing version, and it is the wall hanging. So if you want to sew a big 40 by 40 quilt for this, same design, the same look, then this is the one you're going to want to click on. Of course, it does say sewing right there, but this is the one we're going to be doing our sew along with today, and that is the big pillow, oversized pillow, and that's the one you'll want to click on, download right away, and you can get started. All right. Now, what I like to do when I put together a project, and I'm sure many of you do too, is that you want to print out the instructions. You can either print them or, of course, just look at them on your screen. That's not a problem either. For today, I did print mine so that I would have easy access to it. I just put it in a little binder here. A lot of you have asked questions like, how do you use the Kimberbell background quilting designs as part of these blocks? If you've done it already, you know how easy it really is to do, and it's just slick as can be. All right. So part of this tutorial today is going through the process of actually adding the background quilting to your blocks before you put on the applique. All right. Now, the other part of this is, even though this design can all be done in the 5x7 hoop, for my 5x7 hoopers out there, you're going to be so happy that even with a smaller hoop, you can do this big pillow project.
But you may have realized that the background quilting designs on many of those blocks, you're going to need a larger hoop. And at first you might think, oh no, I'm out of luck. I cannot do the background quilting for this unless I have a larger hoop. Well, I've got good news for you, because today I'm going to show you also why clear blue tiles can help with just that. And you're going to be able to do all the background quilting for these blocks, even if you have that 5x7 hoop size, which is pretty exciting. So we'll go through the steps of using clear blue tiles for that as well. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that are in your instructions. Just going to open my notebook here, things I want to point out. It will mention, let's see, on page 3, all right, at the top of page 3, it will say to you that you've got 2 options for quilting. Option 1, of course, is that you're going to put your projects together just as outlined in your instructions, very step by step. You're not doing any background quilting. You want to wait till the very end to do your quilting. Not a problem. You would follow option 1. But option 2 is actually where we use the Kimberbell background quilting design files, which you can also get at kimberbell.com for an instant download. And that's more of the process I'm going to show you and go into more depth with today. All right. Now, the next thing to note is the instruction key. So again, taking a look at that same page on page 3, I want you to read just what that instruction key is. If you're used to Kimberbell instructions, you know how this works, but that is also helpful to get yourself prepared. And then there's a little bit of prep work. All right. So what's great is that, let me keep turning the pages. Look at that. If you purchased a kit from your favorite quilt shop, or you have some scrap fabric hanging around at home, then this is something that is going to be a huge resource to you. You're going to want to pre-cut all your pieces. And look, our team has even made it even simpler to do by giving you a layout of the cutting instructions, which is really fantastic. All right. So once you've done all those things, the next thing you're going to want to do that we highly recommend is to use fusible backing. So this is the Kimberbell fusible backing. I've actually opened up this page already, or this package already. So I'm glad I've got my slap band that goes around it and will tell me, yep, this is fusible backing. So what I highly recommend is that you take that fusible backing. It's this, like the name implies, it's fusible, and you place it on the back of your blocks. It's really up to you whether you place it on the back of every single block or just your background squares. For me, I basically take a look at it and go, will I need this block to have reduced puckering and shadowing? Yes, then I'm going to use the fusible backing. So for example, this is my Mind Your Mummy block. This is all separated by bags, as it outlines here in the instructions as well. And this is a background block that I want to put the fusible backing on. So I just pre-fused all of that fusible backing onto the back of the block, and now I put it back in my bag and I'm ready to go. Okay, so that is the first thing, is just being prepared with all your cut pieces, everything that has the fusible backing on it that you wish. Definitely your larger blocks, background blocks that you're embroidering onto, that's definitely when I would use the fusible backing. If you want to add them to your applique blocks too, that's up to you. Okay, so I am ready with all of my pieces cut, ready to go. And now I want to show you the first way of doing the pumpkin row block. All right, now this is if you were just following just as outlined on page 17. If you will turn to page 17 in your instructions, I'm going to show you a little bit about how this gets started, okay? And that is as if you were doing quilting option 1, which is that you're not quilting anything right now. You're going to wait till the very end to quilt this pillow. Then I'm going to take you into, hey, I want to quilt this as I go. We'll talk about that too. All right. So this is what I'm starting with is if you weren't quilting at all. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do, of course, it says that I need the 5x7 hoop. So I'm taking my 5x7 hoop here. And then it says you need an oversized piece of batting, or not batting, an oversized piece of your stabilizer here. Okay. And I have just used a lightweight cutaway stabilizer. All right. That's, let's see, a little too bright on there. All right. Then you're also going to want, of course, your background piece of fabric, which it says that we need a 6.5 by 10.5 inch one, and then all your pieces. Okay. I also like at this point to have my plastic grid as well to help me center this. Now, if I were going according to these instructions, and again, not pre-quilting, this is what I would do. The first thing it says, look in the top right corner of page 17, it says to mark the center of your background fabric. Well, I certainly could take a ruler and measure over so much this way and mark it, and then measure down and mark it in the middle, or I can make it really easy on myself and just fold this in half one way and give it a slight finger pressing, fold it in half the next way, again, finger press it. Now I've got some centering crosshairs right there. Okay, but now to be able to see that better, I will just mark it with a water-soluble pen right on those fold lines. And now I know that that is the center. Okay, the next thing it says in that top right corner is that you're going to tape this fabric to the center of your stabilizer. So I've already cut my stabilizer to be larger than my hoop, and I'm just going to place this on there. And I'm going to eyeball it. I'm not going to worry about measuring anything. I'm just eyeballing this to see that it's center. And then I will take my Kimberbell paper tape. And as it says there, I'm going to tape this to my stabilizer. Now, you could certainly use like a spray adhesive as well. Some people use like a 505 spray. This is the Sulky 2000. You could spray that to there, and that would help as well. But right now, we're just going to tape this. Okay. And then once you've done that, it says to hoop your stabilizer and fabric both together. And let me go ahead and loosen that up a little bit. And I'm going to place that close as I can in the center by eyeballing it. This is when that plastic grid is very helpful. And I'm going to place it on top of there. And now I want to match the center of that grid with the center of my crosshairs. Okay, looks like that might be washed out. Let's look again. Okay, I'm going to mark the center of my grid with the center of my crosshairs. Okay, so to do that, I'm just going to place it right on top. Again, I'm going to loosen that up a little bit and press it down. Okay. All right, that looks pretty darn good to me. All right, there we go. So that's centered. I can now remove this plastic grid, take it to my embroidery machine, and then find the file for the pumpkin row and start stitching according to those directions. All right. Now, let's...
There's a question.
Oh, question. Okay.
Pop it up there real quick. It is, what if your machine did not come with a grid?
I am so glad you asked that. What if your machine does not come with a grid? Well, that's okay. There are other ways to do that. We actually have a video tutorial on YouTube on how to make your own grid. Okay, so basically what I did, I'll tell you in a nutshell, and then you can find the video and it will walk you through step by step. But what I like to do is at Kimberbell, we have what we call centering crosshairs file. It is a free download on kimberbell.com. You'll also find it in the Home is Where the Haunt Is instructions download, okay? Because we'll use that centering crosshairs file. What I would do is I would hoop, like a light mesh stabilizer, something that you can see through a little bit. And then I would stitch my centering crosshairs on that stabilizer. I would then trace around the stabilizer of what's inside my hoop and then cut it out. And now you've got a plastic grid, so to speak. You could also use plastic templates that you can purchase at a store for that very thing. Anyway, those are a couple of ideas. So if you don't have one, no problem. Check out my YouTube video on what to do if you don't have a plastic grid, and we can help answer that. Okay. All right. Great question. Now, at this point, again, if I was not doing background quilting and I was just following my instructions as outlined in the download, I would take this to the machine. I would then find my pumpkin row, and then I would begin stitching. Okay. But right now, what I want to do is actually show you how to do the background quilting, because I know a lot of you have questions about that, and it really is simple. Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's first look at page 4 in your instructions. This actually is a little guide, okay? And what our team has done is they have said, let's make it easy for you guys to know which background that we used. Of course, you can use any of the backgrounds. They come in such a variety of sizes. But on page 4, you're going to see what we used as far as backgrounds go in a particular block. So I'm going to look at the pumpkin block, and it shows to look at number 10. So I go down here to number 10, and what does it say? Pumpkin row, KDQ 007 chevron 1, and it's the 4x8 horizontal. Okay, so what I've done is, well, let me back up here. One thing I want you to notice, let me grab my highlighter because it's that important. This will be important when it comes time to know what hoop size you need for this. If you are going to use your background quilting design, notice 4x8 horizontal. Okay, that's that third line down, 4x8 horizontal. And you're sitting there thinking to yourself, great. Okay, I have a hoop that will fit that, a 4x8. Now think about this. Will a 5x7 fit a 4x8 design? No, it's not, because obviously it's larger, right? And in fact, because of how these block by block designs have been digitized, it's actually even a little bit larger. It's a 1/2 inch larger because we have a back placement line for batting and tack down. Okay, so you have to bump up your hoop to the next size hoop that it will fit. So my next size hoop is a 4x10 or 6x10, sorry, a 6x10 hoop. Will that 4x8 fit in a 6x10? Absolutely. Okay. In fact, like I said, it's even a little bit larger because of the batting and tack down line. So it's really a 4.5 by 8.5. Yes, that will still fit in a 6x10 hoop. Okay, so I'm going to bump it up to my next size hoop, which is a 6x10. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, well, there we go, I can't do this because I only have a 5x7 hoop. No worries, all right? Because I'm going to show you in the next section of this video how you can still do these blocks even with a smaller hoop using the clear blue tiles. Okay, but right now, let's just say you have that 6x10 hoop. You're ready to quilt. I like to start with at the beginning with the end in mind, if you will. So this is, I've already stitched this block out, and this is what we're going after. We are going to pull up our chevron design. Okay, you can either pull up the horizontal version or the vertical version. It's really up to you, which way you want those to go. We put in there, I think, the horizontal way, but certainly you can make it the vertical way like I did here. Okay, so this, what you're going to do is pull up your background quilting design. I'll show you how I did that here in just a minute. And then it's going to give you a batting line, a placement line for your batting. And then you will add, and you'll go through the steps, okay, of putting your quilting together. In fact, I've already printed on those background quilting designs. Let me see if I can find it in my notebook. I like to print everything out for easy reference. But if you download any of our background quilting designs, you're also going to have a step-by-step instruction guide for how to use them. Okay, so what I'm going to show you today actually is outlined in the download itself. All right. Okay, so what I want to do is stitch my background, and then I'm going to find the pumpkin row and stitch that. Okay, now if you want to combine these two files together, you certainly can do that. You can do that in software if you have software, or you could even, some machines have an add feature where I could pull in one design and then I say add, and then I pull in the other design and then it combines it. If your machine has that feature, fantastic. If it doesn't, that's okay too. I'm going to show you all the ways this is possible. There are so many ways to make this work, and I want you to feel successful with it. Okay, so I'm going to pull these in as separate files today. All right, so again, you could do this in software, you could do it on your machine, or you can just do it one file at a time. It will all work. All right, so let's go ahead. I've got my 6x10 design here, or my 6x10 hoop, and I want to do my background quilting design with exactly what was outlined in the download. Okay, so let's first go ahead and add our stabilizer. So I'm going to use a light cutaway. This is the Kimberbell light cutaway. Okay, and I will hoop that. Right now, again, I'm only doing the quilting file. Okay. All right. Make sure that when you are putting your hoops together, you always want to match. Loosen that a little bit. There we go. You always want to match the arrows together. So the arrows indicate the top of your hoop right here. And you want those arrows to match the arrows on the outer rim of your hoop. Okay, always important that those match up. Okay, so I'm going to go over to my machine and I'm going to find that 4x8 design file that I mentioned earlier. Again, this is for those who have a larger hoop and can do this particular design. If you don't have a larger hoop, don't worry, stay with me because I'm going to show you how to do it a little bit differently. So I'm going to find my design file. And I'm going to choose, again, either the vertical or the horizontal quilting. It doesn't matter. But this is the 4x8 size. And what's going to happen first is it's going to give me what we call a placement line. And this is a big old square that's going to tell me where to place my batting. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, I'm going to quickly look at what my setting is for speed because I think this machine can go faster and I just need to switch that up. So bear with me as I look at the speed. Oh yes, this was on a low speed. We can do this a little bit faster. Okay, there we go. Now I'm ready. Pedal to the metal in some cases, right? You don't always want to do that, but sometimes it's really nice. Okay, so now I have made this placement line. I'm going to take a piece of batting that's larger than this. Now, I just quickly cut off a piece of batting that I knew would be larger. In your instructions, it will probably say 1/2 inch to 1 inch larger than this background block. Either way, it's fine, just as long as it's larger. So here we go. I'm now placed it on there, and I'm going to do what we would call the batting tack down line. Oh, that's a lot faster, isn't it?
All right, now, hey Kim, there's
Yes.
a couple questions that are coming in.
Okay,
So I'm gonna switch it to main camera here.
all right.
So one of the questions is, what is your largest hoop on that baby lock? They want to know what your largest hoop is. And then the second question is, do you need to iron the lightweight mesh so that it shrinks before you embroider it?
Okay, those are great questions. On this particular machine, I believe the largest size it can go to is an 8x12. We use all of the brands of machines. So whether you have a FOV, a Janome, a Bernina, I mean, all of them, we use all of them in our product development lab. I'm just happening to use this one today. This particular one, I believe, goes to an 8x12, but there are many machines and models within all the brands that even go up to 9x14 or 10 and higher. So, but right now I'm using a 6x10 hoop. Now, as you can see, I definitely cut this batting way oversized. It doesn't need to be this much bigger, but oh well. Okay, so the next step I'm going to do is actually cut away the extra batting. So I'm using my Kimberbell applique scissors, and I'm going to just pull it taut with my left hand and then cut with my right hand. Okay. What this does, this is the beauty of how this is digitized, is that it actually, that's kind of blown out there, light. This actually will make it so that there is no extra batting in your seam allowance, which would be really bulky. Oh, that's much better, Andrew. Thanks. Which is nice. Okay. Now what happens is that I will, let's go ahead and move this. I will place this back on my machine, and what's going to happen, it's going to do a little bit larger of an outline, and that is for my fabric placement line. So let's go ahead and go to that point. There was another question I didn't answer. What was that second question?
Okay, let me grab it up again. The question was, we had there for a second. Do you need to iron the lightweight mesh so that it shrinks before you embroidery?
Yeah. You know what? I've never had to iron the lightweight mesh to see if it shrinks beforehand. And I've never had a problem, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't. I know some people who will actually take an iron and just steam their lightweight mesh to see if it shrinks a little bit. You could do that, but especially for a project like this, a pillow, I will not worry about that part. Okay, I want to show you what this looks like. This is the outline. It goes about 1/4 inch around all 4 sides of that batting. This is where I'm going to place my background fabric, okay? So I'm going to take my background fabric. I've got this one with the orange dots, okay? And remember, I already placed the fusible backing onto the back of it. And with the right side facing up, I'm going to place that right on there. Now, you could certainly put a few pieces of tape to make sure that doesn't move. I don't think you're going to have a problem with it. It is oversized, and so I just take it to my machine at this point. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the tack down line, which will hold this fabric in place. Now, someone asked, is this going to be recorded? And the answer is yes. I definitely want you to be able to refer back to this at any given time, so it will be recorded. Okay. All right. Now, you'll notice if I were to lay my fingers around here, you're going to feel that there is no batting inside those side seams. This is fantastic for when you go to sew this together. All right. Now, I'm going to leave this as is. I'm not going to do any cutting right now, just as is. And we're going to go to my favorite part, which is the actual quilting. Now, this one, again, I chose the chevron, but because you have probably built a library of Kimberbell designs for background quilting, really the choice is yours. You can make it the horizontal chevron. You can make it the vertical chevron. You could do maybe pull one of the files that has the candy corn designs on it and put that in the background. Maybe you just want straight lines. You can certainly do that as well. Okay. All right, so that while that's stitching, some people can often ask, let's go ahead and go to this camera. Some people ask, you know, what thread do I use for quilting? Well, as you can see in our sample, I'm going to pull this up here. We actually used white thread, and that's, you really can't see it. More than anything, we matched the background on that, and you just see more of texture than anything. It's really up to you. You know, if there's a lot going on in a quilt, then sometimes I like to keep my thread a little bit lighter or to match the background, okay? If I want that background quilting to pop, then I'm going to go ahead and use a color that's maybe a contrast, a darker thread. So in this case, I want to see those chevron lines. I think they are so stinking cute. So I used orange thread for that one. Okay. So that is absolutely a personal preference. See how quick and easy this is to do? You have now quilted your background and you're ready to now add your applique design. Now, earlier I said you could do this in embroidery software. You certainly could combine the designs there. Some machines will have an add feature. You could do it. You could have done it there. But right now, I'm just going to show you that this quilting is done. I'm going to leave it in the hoop. But now I want to add the design to do those cute pumpkins right across there. So I'm just going to place it back on my machine. That's all I'm going to do. Place it back on my machine. I'm going to go to my home screen. And I'm going to find the pumpkin file and hit embroidery. And now I'm ready to go. The first step it's going to do, in fact, I think, well, we'll keep it orange. That's fine. The first step is you're going to stitch out the pumpkin. Pumpkin 2 is what we call it. And that just means it's the second pumpkin. So this is the outline for pumpkin 2. Okay. All right. So as you can see here, I have stitched an outline. of the pumpkin. It's the pumpkin too. Whenever we do applique, let's go ahead and go to the main camera. If you are brand new to applique, get ready for a whole lot of fun. Basically, there are 3 steps to applique. The first step is what we would call your placement line. That is simply the outline of where you're going to place your fabric. Okay, so in this scenario, we have the orange, or we have the pumpkin that we've outlined with thread. Okay. There we go. I don't know how well you can see that, but there is an orange kind of circle going on right there. That is what we call the placement line. That tells us where we're going to place our piece of fabric that's larger than that line. So let's go ahead and do that. This one actually, in the example, we used our Kimberbell glitter sheets. What I want you to remember with this is that you want to peel off the plastic coating. Don't forget to do that, okay? So I peeled this off. I'm gonna just set that plastic coating aside. And now I've got this beautiful orange glitter. We call it copper. If you're looking for it at your store, isn't it beautiful? It has so much sparkle and shine, and the best news is it's not going to rub off onto your hands or in your face or in your hair and all over the place like some glitter does, right? On the back of that is a fusible. So I'm just going to place that over the top. Now, if you're not using glitter, you just do the same thing with fabric. Then I'm going to just take a couple pieces of the Kimberbell paper tape and tape it in place just so that it doesn't shift anywhere as I go to stitch my next step. The next step in doing an applique is what we would call a tack down line. And what that's going to do is it's going to go around and tack that piece down. It's really just going to do the same outline as your pumpkin. So let's go ahead to the machine and do the next step. Okay, does someone are there any questions while this stitches?
I'm looking, let's see. She said, do you use cotton or polyester thread when using the quilting designs?
We use the same embroidery thread that we use for everything else. I don't worry about it being a different thread content. It's the exact same that we've used for all the applique designs. Okay. All right. Great question. Now, I knew you can't see that very well, but there is an outline of a pumpkin right there on top. And now what I want to do is lay this on a flat surface and cut away the extra glitter. Okay, so I'm going to open up my scissors here. I think I'm going to take these flexible ones right here. We love these Kimberbell scissors because of the curve on the bottom. It's very long. We've got long blades, longer than what most are out there at, and it's sharp from the very base to the very tip. So it's going to make it really simple to cut this out. These are also great to reduce hand fatigue. So if you have like arthritis in your hands, you're going to love using these scissors. Okay. So I'm just going to clip all the way around the outside edge so that it then looks like a pumpkin, the shape that it's designed to be. Now the final stitch on an applique is what we would call a cover stitch. And of course that is just to cover those raw edges. Now sometimes if the design lends itself to a raw edge technique, which there's many reasons why we would have that, then we would keep it raw edge. But these pumpkins will all be that satin outline. So that cover stitch would normally come next. But because these pumpkins are layered, one in front of the other, let's take a closer look at that. There we go. We're not going to do the satin stitch quite yet. you'll notice in your instructions that we already did the tack down or the placement and the tack down. We cut it around, but now we're going to do another pumpkin and do the placement line and the tack down, and the third pumpkin and the fourth pumpkin. And then at the end of that, that's when the satin stitches will come. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll just do one more pumpkin, and then we'll show you how to do this when you don't have a larger hoop. Okay, so I'm going to place my foot down, and now it's going to do the next outline of the first pumpkin. Okay. So here we've got another outline of the first pumpkin. I'm just going to take my fabric, and with the right side facing up, I'm going to place it over the top of that area. And you could tape it in a couple places if you'd like. Again, this is a pretty large size of fabric. I don't think it's going to shift. So I'm just going to watch it and do the tack down line next. Now it's done. So I'm going to take it off the machine. I'm going to lay it on a flat surface and cut around that outside edge so that I have the shape of a pumpkin. This time I want to show you how I'm using my duckbill scissors. These are the Kimberbell duckbills. Okay, we really love how thin this blade is. It's going to get really up close to your stitch line without cutting those stitches. And what I like to do when I use these duckbills is actually place my duckbill towards the center of the applique design. I like to say that I'm not the scissor police, so if you do it the other way, not a problem. But I have found through my experience that I get a much better, closer cut if I will put that blade or that duckbill towards the center. Okay, just based on the way those blades are aligned. All right, oh, got two pumpkins now. My next step would be to do a third pumpkin and then the fourth pumpkin. And then it's going to go back and do, as you can see in your instructions, you're going to do the green stems, and then you're going to do all the satin stitches around each of those pumpkins. Okay. One other thing I should mention, when you go to place your applique fabric down, say we did the outline stitch and now we're like, okay, now we want to place this on top. You certainly could just do that just like I showed and place it right on top. Or you could use like a spray adhesive and just quickly spray the back of it and place it on there as well. Sometimes that helps give you a more flat, obviously a better way for it to lie flat. And I would do this more in cases of larger pieces of fabric. I haven't found it to be a problem with small pieces, but certainly like a 505 spray, some type of temporary spray adhesive works great for that too. So I will leave that up to you. All right, any questions before we move on to the next type of quilting if you have a smaller hoop?
Okay, well, we're looking here that they say, where can you, I'm assuming she's saying, where can you find the orange tape dispenser? So,
okay.
But then
you like that?
This is a fun comment too, real quick. I'll let you answer that question first.
Okay, the tape dispenser, this is coming to a store near you very soon, just in time for Christmas. So it will be coming very soon. We'll let you know. If you ordered the Bella box, and there may be a few Bella boxes left, there is a very heavy duty tape dispenser in there in a different color, different design. It's in the aqua blue and it's got stripes and people are loving that. But this is another collectible one version that you can get in stores coming in the next couple of months. Great question. And other questions?
Okay, this is from Lynn Geldmeyer.
Okay, hi,
This up
Lynn.
here. It says, when the embroidery background designs are finished being updated to include the CBT, blue tiles,
Yep.
will the orange designs be made for the CBT application as well?
Okay, that's a great question, Lynn. The answer is okay. No, the answer is no, but let me explain why, and it will make perfect sense once you know the reasoning behind that. Clear blue tiles, this right here, is meant to be used with any of the designs that you see on the kimberbell.com page that are stitched onto blue fabric. So that's just an easy way for you to go, okay, blue fabric, clear blue tiles, this works. And the reason is because those particular designs are an all over design. Okay, they are more like the swirls and the loops, and you can't see where it begins and where it ends, and it all flows together, which means it works perfectly for clear blue tiles. But if you see a design on the website, let me go ahead and open up my computer so I can show you. This might make it even
Okay, can anyone hear this? Here we go. I think we've got some audio going through here. Kim, I'm going to give you, let's do this. Let's put this on. There we go.
Okay. You want this?
I'll take that back. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, can you hear me now?
We're getting a bunch of yeses.
Woo! Can we go to main camera? Thank you for your patience, everyone. You gotta love technology, something we always like to say, right? Oh my goodness. Well, now I've got these fancy headphones on from Andrew, who's filming here, and hopefully that's gonna help. Who knows why these things happen? So thank you for your patience. Okay, so I think it sounds like maybe you didn't hear what I was saying at the computer, and Lynn had a great question. I think what would be best, okay, she's asking, clear blue tiles, they can be used on the blue fabrics, but what about the orange fabrics? And there's a reason why. So let me back up if you didn't hear that and show you my computer screen here, because this will be really helpful. If I were to go to the background quilting patterns here, let's see, there we go. Can we get any closer? And I see that some are stitched on blue fabrics and some are stitched on orange fabrics. You're going to see that there's a difference between them, right? The blue fabrics are an all over quilting design. That means you really can't see where it begins and where it ends, and it just all flows together. But then you've got some directional designs, and those are orange. And that means that, say, for example, this is a wavy line and it's going across, and then it goes back, and then it goes back, and it goes back. Let me show you on this actual block here. All right. This is a directional design. Okay, this chevron. Oh, great picture there. This is a directional design. The reason why this particular design wouldn't work with clear blue tiles is because it has what we would call a traveling stitch. That means it's going to zigzag all the way across, and then it's going to go down. It's traveling, right? And then it zigzags all the way across to the other side, and then it travels down, and then zigzags across to the other side, and so forth. So in the end, there's an outline. It's a traveling stitch. And you don't want a traveling stitch to be right in the middle of your project, right? And so that's why an orange design does not work with clear blue tiles, because you would have all these squares all over your quilts, and no one wants an outline square, right? Does that make sense? Whereas with a blue fabric that also works with our block by block method or the clear blue tiles method, you're not going to see that. So you say to yourself, all right, well, that sounds good, but I wanted to do the pattern says to use the spider webs for the background of the witch hat. Well, let me show you what that looks like in your instructions. Okay, let's take a look here. This is on page 4 of your instructions, and you will see what designs we used. Okay, you'll see that some are in blue and some are in orange. If, for example, this number 5 block, this is the witch hat block, it says number 5, I go down here and I go, oh, it is on an orange block. It's an 8 by 8 design, and I only have a 5 by 7 hoop. I'm not going to be able to do that. Well, that's okay, because I want to show you that you can use these patterns are so versatile. What you would do is you would go to the Kimberbell website. You would find a Halloween design that is stitched on blue and use that instead. I'm going to show you that that's the very thing I did when I did this project. I thought I want to show you that it can still be just as cute. Let's go ahead, Andrew, and get an up close of this design. This in the book said, oh, use the spider web design, and that was one that has traveling stitches. So if you don't have a hoop large enough for that design, then you're going to have to choose a different Halloween design. But look, it can still be just as cute. I chose the Halloween design that had witch hats on it. It had candy corn flowers. It had swirls. It had all of these things that are still just as darling, still a Halloween design. And because of clear blue tiles, I did this with a 5 by 7 hoop. Are you ready to see how it's done? I cannot wait to show you. Does that help, Lynn? I hope that helps. What her first statement was is that will all the design files have the clear blue tiles folder added to them now that we have clear blue tiles? And the answer is any blue design, which means it's an all over design, will have 2 files now in your library at kimberbell.com. You will have a block by block folder, which means it's the design that has the batting, placement line, and tack down, okay? Where you don't see the batting inside your seam. But you will also now have a clear blue tiles folder. And that's where I'm going to show you how to use the clear blue tiles, even if you have a smaller size hoop, all right? Now, if you go to your library and you look at your designs that are directional, and they have the outline because they've got the traveling stitch on them. That's not going to work with clear blue tiles. So therefore, you just have the block by block quilting, because that outline that gets formed actually gets sewn into your seam. I hope that makes sense. That's a great question, Lynn. All right, so I went ahead and just chose a different Halloween design and used my 5 by 7 hoop to do this witch hat block. But we're going to go ahead to the, so I can show you that we're going to do the haunted house block. Okay, we're not going to go through every single applique step. What I want to do instead is actually show you how I use clear blue tiles to do this. Let's go ahead again, look at page 4. Okay, this is telling me what design I need for this block. Well, I'm looking at the haunted house block. It's block number 3 right here. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to see that block number 3 is a blue design. woohoo! I'm going to be able to use that exact same design that I want to, even if I've got a smaller hoop. But let me show you again. I'm going to highlight this because I want you to notice what it says. It says the 4x8. All right. If you have a hoop, if you have a 5x7 hoop, you're going, I can't do it. Well, you can with clear blue tiles. But if you don't have a 5x7 hoop and you have the larger one, you've got a 6x10 hoop, then just ignore what I'm about to show you and just go with the steps that I showed you with the pumpkin row. Okay? So, but let's talk about that situation where you have a hoop that's smaller than the design size. Not a problem. I want to show you that I did that did that same background quilting, the same one that's on the pillow, with a 5x7 hoop, and I did it with clear blue tiles. All right, now let's talk about the steps of this. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to break open my box of clear blue tiles. I've already pulled out the tiles that I want, okay? And I am going to do, let me pull these out. Remember what I highlighted? It said a 4x8. Go ahead and pull out that 4x8 tile. Just, even though you're not going to be able to use it, I want you to see that that's the area you want to cover, okay? And set that aside. Then I want you to take a batting piece of a piece of batting that is larger than your fabric. All right. You wouldn't have to do it this way with the method that I showed you with the pumpkin block. Okay. But when we're using clear blue tiles, you want to make sure that your batting is just a little bit larger on all four sides than this background block. Okay. So again, I didn't measure. I just cut it real quick and then just made sure that it was larger. I'm going to place this background fabric on top of that larger piece of batting. In fact, I am going to give it a little spray with my 505 just so that it doesn't shift. Whoop, whoop. If you don't want to use spray or don't have spray, no problem. Just take a little bit of Kimberbell paper tape and tape down the edges. Okay. Now, normally I would say, like in your instructions, it'll say, go ahead and tape all four edges. Well, I might as well just do that. Pretend I didn't have spray. I just want to show you this as if you were doing it at home. So I'm going to tape down all four edges. Your quilting is not going to, this is oversized, so your quilting is not going to get close to it. But just to keep things consistent with the instructions, I'm going to tape this down for you. Okay. And I'm not going to put it too far in, just right along the edge there. And what that's going to do is that's going to prevent your presser foot from actually accidentally lifting up the fabric. You don't want that to happen, right? Okay, so here we go. We've got this block, but we have a smaller size hoop. What was the size of design we wanted to have there? It was a 4x8. So I'm taking, do we have an up close picture of that? Any closer? Get a little closer, right? We're going to try to get as close as we can on this camera so you can see what I'm doing. Again, you don't have a 4x8, but that's okay. I want you to still take out your 4x8 design block so you can see what I'm doing. Think about this. This is an area, well, let me back up. I like to think of these as stamps. If you were to take a clear blue tile and you were to dip it in ink and then stamp it on your fabric, wherever this lands, that's where your quilting designs will go, right? So if I had a hoop that was big enough, I could just take this, place it there, hoop it, and know that that's where it's going to land. But I don't. That's when I can, in fact, let me just outline this to make it easier to see. I'm going to take that 4x8 tile and I'm just placing it right in the center of my block. These are oversized blocks, so you've got some wiggle room. And I'm going to just mark these where these little blue lines are on the tile. Do you see that? It's just showing me the perimeter of the area I'm trying to cover, right? So if I were to remove this, I would see that I've got this area that somehow needs to be covered with quilting. I can take my smaller tiles, because there's a whole lot of them. I know that a 4x6 is going to fit in my 5x7. So remember, this was here. I removed it because I can see my outline. And I'm going to place that here. But I've still got this space right here that I need to fill because this wasn't long enough. I'm going to take my 2x4 tile and turn it and place it there. This is the exact same size now. It's almost like a puzzle, right? If I wanted to figure out how the tiles I can use with the hoop size I have, I'm going to figure out what area I need to cover, and I'm just going to place them there. Now, if you can't see this outline, let me show you with a larger hoop, with the larger tile. Again, 4x8 is where the space I want to cover. So I'm putting down the 4x8 tile just so I can see the space I want to cover. I'm going to leave this here for a minute just so you can have a better visual. I can grab my 4x6 tile. I know it's going to fit in my 5x7 hoop, and I'm going to place it, boom, right on top. Okay, I've got that area covered, but I still have this little strip that needs to be covered. No problem. I'm going to take my 2x4 tile, boom, and place it there. Does that make sense? Once again, let's just quickly, this is not hard. And once you start working with it, you'll go, oh, I see what you're doing. If this is the area I want to cover, I'm just going to place that there, place that there. I'm good to go. Okay. Now you're going to have to mark these. We say that clear blue tiles has 3 simple steps. You place it, you mark it, you quilt it. It really is that simple. I want you to notice that there are some crosshairs on here. Let me see if I can get that. Do you see that? There's some crosshairs that you're going to mark. There's a center point you're going to mark. Anything that is open, you're going to mark. It also has a little open window. That's going to tell me that I need to mark it 4x6, exactly what's shown there on my tile. Can we get any closer on that? There we go. So really simple. I'm going to mark my center point. I'm going to mark my crosshairs. This is with a water-soluble pen that's included. I'm going to mark the arrow. There is a top arrow. You see that? I'm going to mark that arrow because that indicates that's the top of my hoop. Okay. I'm then going to take, there's this little center, this little square that's cut out. And right below it, it says size. Let me see if I can show you a little better this way. Oh, there we go. I want to mark what size this is. How do I know the size? It says it right there. Okay, it says it right there. So whatever that says right there, I'm going to mark in that square. That's going to be helpful because when I go to put this on my machine, I'll remember what size of design I need to pull up. So this says 4x6. I'm going to write 4x6, 4x6. If it's too little of an area to write in, I would just put 4.6 or something like that. Okay. Then there's a few other markings. Well, actually on this, well, okay. There's a few other markings you're going to want to get in the habit of. And that is anytime you see these little blue corners or the little blue line on the sides, you want to mark around that, just on the outside edge. Okay, they're not opened up, you're just marking on the outside edge. Because again, that's going to tell you where your perimeter is. Now this is not important necessarily for this tile, this block, because we're only using 2 tiles. But if I were to have to repeat this tile over and over again, I would know, because of those side marks, where to place my next one, and then where to place my next one, and so forth. Okay. Get up close on this. This next one I'm going to mark. See, I've already marked that one. I could remove my tile. This one also has a center point. Place my center point. Mark my crosshairs. Mark my arrow. Notice my arrow is going this way. No problem. When I go to hoop this, it's going to be just fine. I'm going to hoop my fabric with the arrow pointing towards the top. Okay. This one says it's a 2x4 block. Right here, it says right on the tile, 2x4. So what am I going to write in this window? 2x4. 2x4. Again, when I go to quilt this, I can pull up the 2x4 file. And then, again, just to get into the habit, I'm going to mark on all 4 sides so I can see where the outline is. All right. Woo! So you can see that even with a 5x7 hoop, we can hoop this up here, which is the 4x6 area. We can also hoop the 2x4 area. Here's the great thing. Let's go ahead and go to the main camera. The nice thing about clear blue tiles is that I can pull these up on my machine, and no matter if I use a 4x6 size, a 2x4 size, an 8x8 size, a 10x12 size, it doesn't matter. The designs all stay in the same scale. That's good news, because it's not like this designs shrink when you use a smaller tile. We want it all to look seamless. We want it to all flow together. Because they're the same scale, you're never going to be able to tell where one tile ended and one tile began. All right? So that is the beautiful thing about this. Now, if I was using clear blue tiles in the traditional way it's meant for, which means it's meant for like a large quilt, right? Or a table runner, or a pillow, or something where I've got 3 layers of fabric. I've got my backing fabric, I've got my batting in the middle, and I've got my top fabric. Then you will not need any extra stabilizer for this, because your project is large enough that it's going to fit in the hoop you have, just as it's designed to fit in the hoop you have. But with this block method, because we have a smaller project, it doesn't always fit in the hoop, and you need something for it to grab onto, right? So in this case, I am going to use a lightweight tearaway stabilizer. Okay. Again, if you were to do this the way clear blue tiles was originally intended, no stabilizer needed. But for this method, we are going to go to this next step of using stabilizer. And my scissors just left me. Do you guys see my scissors anywhere? Ah, there we go. There they are. Everyone at home is saying, hey, Kim, they're right there, right under your nose, right? Okay, so I'm just using a light tearaway, and I am going to place my hoops together. And then this is where I'm going to stitch some crosshairs. Okay. Again, these steps, they're not needed when you're using clear blue tiles. This is a instance where it's just a little bit different than the norm. Okay. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to find my crosshairs on my machine. And again, these come in your download. And I'm going to place this on the machine. Again, this is just stabilizer only. And I want to stitch those centering crosshairs. You'll see why this is important in just a minute. All right. This, of course, now is the center. Can we get any closer on that? There we go. This is the center. Aha. Oh, I like that. Of my hoop. Let's go a little bit back. There we go. Okay. And somehow I need to get this center dot that I marked on top of this center crosshair. So how am I going to do it? Well, I'm going to do it really easily with a thumbtack method. Okay, so this will help find the center really quickly. And where did my thumbtacks go? Oh, here we go. Got my thumbtacks. Yep, that's what I'm talking about. Just a plain old flathead thumbtack. I'm going to turn my hoop over and I'm going to place that tack right smack in the center. Oh, look at that. I just popped that out of the hoop. Let's try that again. I better tighten that up a little bit more, right? Make sure and tighten that up so it doesn't go anywhere. All right, let's try this again. I'm going to take my thumbtack and I'm going to place it right in the center, turn it back over, and I've got a tip of a thumbtack poking out. I want to place that tip of the thumbtack through both layers. I'm going through the batting and I'm going through the top, and I'm going to find the center of that 4x6 design with the arrow pointing up towards my hoop, and just lay it right on top. Okay. Now, this is when I can also take my grid, because what if my block was off a little bit? And I laid this grid on top and my crosshairs don't match. Oh, that's why a grid is so nice to have. Again, if you don't have a grid, I do have a video on how to make your own grid. All right, so I'm going to lay this on top. I'm placing that tack right through the center on my grid. I'm going to make sure that the crosshairs that I marked with my blue pen are lined up with the crosshairs on my grid. And they look pretty darn good, I shall say. So I'm going to lift that up. Okay, that is good to go. In fact, I could, if I wanted to, take a few pieces of tape and just make sure, just so this doesn't shift when I go to place it back on my hoop or on my machine. I'm going to just keep it there, and I'm going to remove the thumbtack. Don't forget to remove the thumbtack. Don't forget to, everyone repeat with me. Kim, I promise to remove the thumbtack. That would be very bad if you put that on your machine, right? Now I have found the center. Now I'm going to pull up, or I'm going to place this on my machine. But remember what I wrote on here? What did I write? That first window, I wrote 4x6. All right, let's go ahead and find the 4x6. I'm going to go back to my home screen. Embroidery. There we go. All right, I know some machines will actually have the names of the files listed on here. If your machine doesn't do that, what you could do is just go through on your computer first and only pull the design files that you're going to need, and that'll make it easier to find. So I'm going to find my 4x6 design. I'm going to hit embroidery, and now this is going to stitch out exactly where that tile landed. I want to bring my needle down, and oh my goodness, if you could see this, oh my gosh, If you could see this right now, you would see that Kim is spot on. Woo! Life is good, man. Gonna have a good day. But if I drop my needle and it's not right there in that center dot, no problem. All you have to do is shift your needle to where it needs to go. But it's there, it's good to go. I can press go, and that is going to stitch out. Now, in our sample, I think we used white thread or gray thread. I'm going to use orange thread because I want you to see this very carefully. So I'm going to stitch. And now it's going to do its thing. Let's go ahead and go to the main camera while it's doing its magic. And I can help answer any questions. Simple, simple, right? Oh, no, there's batting in there. There is batting. A little bit later. Yeah, go back and take a look at it. There is batting in there. You're going to lay your batting and your top together and then place it on that thumbtack. Just to reiterate, once again, I want you to know that if you're using the clear blue tiles method for quilts, table runners, pillows, wall hangings, those kinds of things, you don't need any extra stabilizer. You don't need to stitch crosshairs first. None of that is needed. But because we are doing a very small block that is smaller than our hoop, and we need to find the center of it and make sure it matches on our design, then we will do crosshairs on this first. Then use the thumbtack method and then stitch your design. Okay? There's just a little difference there. Is there a limit with the size of quilt you can use on tiles? That is a great question. Here would be my suggestion, and this is based on the experience of our product development team. When they tested clear blue tiles and they tested quilting in the hoop, what they found, and this would actually be with any quilting in the hoop type of project, certainly, yes, you could do large quilts. Okay, we did large picnic size quilts. We've done all sizes of quilts. But what they found through their testing is that if you will stay below a 60 by 60 inch quilt, you will have the best possible results. And that's because of basically the drag of your quilt. The bigger the quilt gets, the heavier it gets, right? And so if we were to try quilting this in the hoop, first of all, you'd have a lot of hoopings. It can be done, but you'd have a lot. And you're going to have that heaviness of the quilt that will like pull at the needle, and then it's going to kind of make your quilt designs a little ski-wampus, if you will. And so we recommend a 60 by 60 size. We also recommend the Kimberbell Project batting. I don't think I have the bag here, but the loft on this batting is perfect for in the hoop quilting. It's not too thick, it's not too thin, it's just right. So Kimberbell Project batting is what we'd recommend. Great question. Other questions? This is almost done.
So there was a question about what about the designs on black fabric?
Oh, yes, that's a great question. So we have designs on blue fabric that work with clear blue tiles. We have designs on orange fabric that work with the block by block method and clear blue tiles and orange pop rulers. Orange, right? They work really well with those sizes. But we also have some designs that are on like a darker gray, almost black fabric on there. If you see those designs, those are border designs. So great question. All of our borders and sashing blocks or sashing files are on that darker black fabric. Oh my gosh. Okay, it's done. See how quick that was? Look how cute that is. Oh my goodness. Here we go. Oh. Oh, that is so cute. I'm dying. Okay, so that was the 4x6. But remember, if I were to take this tile again, we've already marked it, but I want to show you. Whoops. Where we had this, we still need to do a 2x4, right? No problem. We already marked it as 2x4. We already put our center dot there. But how are we going to hoop it? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to pop this out of the hoop. And I used a really light tearaway on this, so I'm just going to pull it away. Because you're not going to see this, it's inside of a pillow. I don't worry about the tearaway. But if you were to do this type of project where you would see the back and you were doing this specific method that I'm showing right now, then certainly a wash away would work well. Okay, so I still need to hoop this. So again, what am I going to do? I'm going to hoop my lightweight tearaway. Okay. I can't emphasize enough that if you are doing the regular clear blue tiles method, you do not use stabilizer or crosshairs. You won't need that. But with this one, where we're trying to get it on a small, very small block that is smaller than our hoop, then that's why we're using this. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is the crosshairs, because I need to match the center of my next area with the center of my hoop. So I'm just going to quickly go back, find those crosshairs. Boom, there it is. Embroidery and stitch down. Okay. All right. The crosshairs have been stitched directly onto that lightweight stabilizer. Next thing I'm going to do, you know what it is. I'm going to take a thumbtack. I'm going to turn it over to the back. I'm going to find the center, and I'm going to place that thumbtack right through the center. Turn it over to the front. I've got a nice little point right there sticking up. Well, that's great, because I need to match that up with the center point on that 2x4 area. But remember where the arrow points is always the top of the hoop. Okay, so this arrow is pointing this way to the top, that arrow to the top. So I'm just going to move my project this way. Tip of the thumbtack goes right to the center point on my fabric. Place it on there. Ooh. Smooth it out. Just to be sure that I'm nice and straight, I'm going to lay my grid on top. Oh, that is pretty darn good. Let's shift that just a little bit. I'm feeling pretty good about that. Okay, I'm going to tape a little bit just around the edges so this doesn't move when I put it back on my machine. Okay, take that thumbtack out. Please don't forget that. Take the thumbtack out. And now I'm going to take it to my machine. But here's the other thing I don't want you to forget. You need to change your file, don't you? You need to change the file, because remember we wrote 4x6 before on the bigger area. So we pulled up the 4x6 design. But what did we write in the small area? It was a 2x4, wasn't it? So I'm going to, and I know that if I forgot, after marking, I already wrote it in that little window, right? So I'm going to go to find and pull up my 2x4 design. Again, it's the same scale. It's the same design. It's the same scale. You're not going to be able to tell where it started, where it ended. It's awesome. Oh, you guys are going to love this. And I want to drop my needle. Boom, right smack in the center. I don't have to shift anything. I can hit go. This is going to be a really quick stitch out. Okay, well, that's stitching out. Any questions? Can you use your, oh, yes. You could certainly, yes. Can they hear your question on that? I'll repeat Brielle's question. Can you use your template to make the crosshairs instead of stitching it? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Okay, great question. What else? When doing a larger piece, do you start in the middle of your quilt or on one side? I love that you asked that question. It's as if I planted you out there to ask that question, right? And I didn't, I promise. I'm not sure who asked it. But the answer is yes, you start in the middle. What I would always do, this is with the clear blue tiles method, I would always start with, if I'm doing all over quilting, for example, I would always start with the largest tile that my hoop could handle, okay? And I would always start smack in the middle of the project, and then I would work my way out to the edges, okay? Imagine this. If I am doing a big quilt, I start with my largest hoop, and I place it there, I mark it, and then, because I've marked those little sides, right? I know where to place my next tile. I just line it right up to where the other one ended. And then I know where to place my next tile. And I would continue that process and work my way out on that quilt. But eventually you get closer to the edges of that quilt and you have smaller areas, right? You might have maybe a 2-inch gap that is needing to be quilted and you don't want to use your biggest size hoop to do that. Not a problem. Grab your clear blue tiles, take the 2-inch by 12-inch a file, if tile in this case, and then place that there, and then fill in that spot. Again, think of it as the rubber stamp. If it is underneath that blue tile, that's exactly where it's going to quilt it. And so, and because all the files are the same scale, all the designs are the same scale, you won't be able to tell that, oh, I ended it just right there and then I had to use something else. Nope, you won't be able to tell. That's the great thing about clear blue tiles. So the answer to your question, work in the center, start in the center, work your way out. Okay? All right, here we go. Are you ready to see it? Look at that. Here we go. It's all continuous. You do not see where it began and where it ended. It all looks like you did it as if you had a larger hoop. Isn't that awesome? Now, what do you do about those blue lines? Let's go ahead and remove that. Okay, what do you do about them? Not a big deal. You just squirt them with water. All right, let's just squirt and boom. I would not soak this. I mean, who wants to soak a quilt, right? Just spray it with a little bit of water and those blue markings just simply disappear. All right. Okay. Oh, look at that. Isn't that so fun? Imagine the same idea of your background quilting on larger projects. But again, you don't need to use stabilizer on those, just for this smaller project. Okay, now, what do you do next? Because now you've got it quilted, and now you need to do your regular applique design. In this case, I would put my haunted house on top of it. Well, what I would do is I would remove my tape. In fact, I told you to tape all the edges. You know, look at where, I'm just going to show you real quick. This is so close in and you've got such an extra gap here that your needle is not even going to go close to that edge. So you may want to just save yourself some tape. How's that? and just tape a few little areas to keep it down. Okay.
And there's a question that came in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, just back up again. But it was essentially, what if they go over the edge? What if it doesn't fit perfectly?
Yes. Oh, I'm glad you asked that question. Let's go ahead and go to the main camera. What if it goes over the edge? Maybe it doesn't fit perfectly in that area that you're trying to fill. No problem. That's one of the reasons why your batting is larger and your backing is larger when you go to do a quilt sandwich. And the instructions in clear blue tiles helps lay all that out. Let me show you real quick. When you get your clear blue tiles, you will have the user guide and it will explain all of that. What happens is that, yes, you can stitch over that area. Say, for example, you've got a 2-inch area and your quilt design went off to 3 inches or whatever. No problem. In fact, it might even make it look better because it just looks like that quilting has run off the edges. You'll be cutting your quilt down to size that you need, and you will be cutting off some quilting, and that's absolutely okay. Not a problem. So you're good. Okay, hope that helps. The next thing I want to show you is that once you are done with this, then I'm going to use scissors just because I don't have a mat tear and rotary cutter, but I would suggest a rotary cutter. You're going to just trim up that batting to be the same size as your quilt block. Okay. And then you would turn to your instructions just like you normally would do as if this had no quilting on it, right? And add the applique. Okay. So it's going, just think about like what you did with the pumpkin row. Okay, it's going to take, there we go, where we found the center, right? So you would do the same here. You would find the center. You could fold it 4 ways, or you could measure down halfway and mark it, and then measure across halfway and mark it, just so that you could find that center point. And you would do the exact same steps. Let me find it in my book here. This, I'm looking at the haunted house. Here we go, page 12. You would go through those steps with your 5x7 hoop still, and go ahead and stitch out that applique design like I did here. So here's an example of how this started. I've only gone through 2 of those steps. Now I've got to add the windows and the cute door and the pumpkins and all the things. But this one in particular, I also used a 5x7 for the whole thing, just so that you can see it can be done. All right. Again, if you have the larger size hoop, you wouldn't have to do any of that I just showed you. But the good news is it can be done. Isn't that great news for anyone who has a smaller hoop? All right, so you just continue that process and finish your haunted house. Now, one other thing I want to mention, if you will open up to page 8, because I know some people may wonder about why we used sticky back in this one versus the other blocks we used a lightweight mesh stabilizer. Okay, so here you can see that we use sticky back. The reason for doing that is because, again, our testing team, they want you to have the best experience possible. So if by chance you are using the orange velveteen, I know not all kits have the orange velveteen, and that's absolutely okay. You don't have to use it. It's just something that we tried out. Our testing team found that if they hooped actually hooped the velveteen, you take the chance of getting what we would call hoop burn on there, and that means it's just going to you might see a ring around that, and we don't want to see that. So we actually did it so that you could just lay that on top of that sticky back. So that's why that's used. If you are doing your quilting in the hoop on that particular block, you don't have to worry about any of those crosshairs, or you just follow the directions as if you're doing regular quilting in the hoop. Okay, and that means doing your quilting first and then adding your applique on top. Ooh, that was a lot. Are you guys still with me? Who is excited to get started? Are you ready for some fun? I'm going to be doing this right along with you. I haven't finished all my blocks for this today's assignment, so I'm going to finish up my haunted house block. The only block that I actually have done is this one. pumpkin block to show you. So I'm going to now that that's done, I'm going to work on my haunted house, which is right here. I'm going to finish that up. And then the last one I'm going to do is the witch. Well, actually, no, I did do the witch hat design. Remember? What was I thinking? Because this one I used a different background quilting so that I could use clear blue tiles. So I am almost done for this assignment. Okay. Now I want you to finish all 3 of those today and tomorrow, so that Wednesday at noon, come back to this online sew along, and we will work on the other blocks. We'll do, let's see, I'm going to show you how to do your quilting in the hoop with those pieced blocks. I'm going to show you how fun and easy it is to do the piece blocks, even if you're not quilting in the hoop. Still really cool technique that our digitizers have put together for you. So we will focus on the piece blocks and the lettering blocks, the ones that say mind your mummy and bugs and hisses, welcome here. And then on Friday at noon Mountain Time, we will put it all together. I'll show you how to quilt your borders if you want to do that, and be able to stuff your pillow with that pillow form. So anyway, there you have it. How was that for our first sew along? Any questions before I sign off? Any questions? Good. I hope it helped for sure. You know, you just got to get in there and play with it. And once you do, your mind's going to be blown, and you're going to be so excited about the possibilities with this. In fact, you'll start stitching and all these ideas will come to you. Oh, I could do this. Oh, I could do this. Oh, I could do this. Think about, here's another little tidbit. You know how, because this was a smaller project and I used the crosshairs on the stabilizer to stitch it, you could do the same thing with like a zipper pouch or an apron. If you wanted to put like a little design across the hem of an apron, you would do the same technique. It's actually outlined in the Clear Blue Tiles book on how to do those other types of projects that aren't necessarily quilts projects. So there you go. Where can we find this recording? It's going to stay on our Facebook page, and it's also going to be on YouTube. So if you want to always know about the latest videos coming out from Kimberbell, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can like and subscribe and all of the things. So I think there's even a bell you can mark so that you are notified when a new video is posted. We'd love for you to join us over on YouTube as well as Facebook. So yeah, great question. Any other questions? Again, it's not too late to download this design or to download any of the background quilting designs. Just to note, if you downloaded background quilting designs for the Candy Corn Quilt Shop, good news, this pillow uses those same design files. So what you're doing is you are building a library of designs that you can go to for anything, any kind of project, and that's pretty exciting. All right. Any other questions? Good. Good. You're loving it. You know, I'd love for you to post your pictures. So when you get done with some of these blocks, go ahead, post your pictures, post your experience. If you tried out the Clear Blue tiles, I know they're being shipped out to people right now as we speak. Maybe some of you have gotten them already and can try them out, and maybe some haven't, but they're coming very soon. And if you want to find those, contact your favorite quilt shop, whether that's a brick and mortar store or many of them sell online too, and they will have those and are ready to send them out to you. All right. Well, thank you for joining me today for our first sew along. It is, you know, let's see what time, about a couple hours later. Hope you enjoyed your lunch. Hopefully you ate a little something as you were sewing along. That's the beauty of doing this from home, right? And I will see you Wednesday. That's a twofer for me at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. I am doing a What's New Wednesday, and I will showcase something from the product line of Kimberbell that's brand spanking new, or maybe it's something new to you. And I actually filmed that from my sewing room, my sewing studio at home. And so we will do that at 10 a.m. Mountain Time on Wednesday, and then join me just 2 hours later at noon for the second part of this 3-part series of the Sew Along for Home is Where the Haunt Is. I will see you Wednesday at 10. Have fun, everyone, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.